So I'll give you guys a bit of a summary about myself. Please feel free just to make a few notes as to particular things that you're interested in, and then what we'll do is after 30 minutes we'll come back around and we'll dig into those things in a little bit more detail. All right. Now, it's very, very difficult to find an osteopath that doesn't love their job. So for you to have partaken in this course, I think is potentially one of the best decisions that you've ever made. It's going to equip you with a philosophy to understand not just your patients and the nature of your patients and the nature of the body and the mind, but also it's going to arm you with a philosophy of being able to map out your own life and being able to map out, in my perspective, your own business life as well, for a multitude of reasons. Now, my name is Elliot Reed. I'm the founder of the Revitalise Clinic, graduated from the UCO in 2013. And since then, I've opened up a clinic which we've grown year on year to be able to provide care to over 8,600 people. We're seeing about 800 to 1,000 patients a month at the moment. And the reason why I've been able to do that is because the training from the UCO has been fantastic. It's been able me to not just upscale my own skill set, but the skill set of my colleagues, and it's armed me with a philosophy which I feel is reflective of true health. We're in a bit of a dichotomy at the moment when it comes to the pools of allopathic medicine and the pools of maybe lifestyle medicine, or for lack of a better term, alternative medicine. And what we're going to be seeing today is how the way that osteopathic philosophy works is very, very much aligned with research, but also very much aligned with what the public needs right now when it comes to their own healthcare. I'm also a counsellor of the Institute of Osteopathy, so I'm using my role to drive the profession forward and making sure that we're driving the profession forward, not just for our patients, but also our osteopaths, looking at how we can get people more aware of what we do as osteopaths, more aware of, make osteopaths more aware of how they can build bigger, more successful practices, and also how the education provided for osteopaths enables them to thrive post-graduation as well. I'm incredibly grateful for my education in osteopathy and also the opportunities that it's given to me. But you'll also hear me use the term evidence-based practice. And the reason why I use the term evidence-based practice is I feel that we are morally obliged, ethically and morally obliged. It is our duty to be the most effective practitioners that we can be. We don't just owe this to ourselves because of the amount of time that we've invested in our education, but we also owe it to our patients, because our patients are passing their hard-earned money to us to take care of their care and to guide them to a better place. Now, if we are ad hoc, willy-nilly picking out ideas out of our head and thinking this will work, or I heard this idea from this person, I think that's how I want to treat, then we're doing a huge disservice, not just to our patients, but to ourselves, when we can stand upon the shoulders of giants, and we can stand upon good research bases to make sure that we're being the most effective practitioners that we can be. And up to at the moment, we're seeing about 800 to 1,000 appointments a month, and we've treated over 8,600 people so far. And as I said, part of the education that I've gone through has enabled us to do that. So there's a few pictures here. So that's me there at the UCO clinic. That was in 2012. This is me and my mum when I opened up my first clinic in 2013, and then that's us at the Gravesham Business Awards in 2018, which we won a year after that. So I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about my journey into osteopathy, and how osteopathy encapsulated my idea, or encapsulated and formed my philosophy of health. So I was a boxer for about 8 or 9 years. My last year as boxer was at the uni in the first year. And boxing, obviously, you do a lot of hard work, you do a lot of groundwork and a lot of road work, so morning running, for example. So I started to develop symptoms of compression in my back when I was about 20, I was 17, so that would have been about 2007, 2008. And my mum was fortunate enough, I was fortunate enough for my mum to take me to an osteopath. Osteopath treated me, I could kind of get the gist of what they were doing, and that kind of sowed the seed as to how I could help other people to do the same thing. But since the age of 8 or 9 years old, I've always been interested in health. Just like everyone has their thing, Some kids like to take apart bikes and things like that. I really enjoy taking apart, not literally the human body, but trying to understand the human body and how someone become faster, stronger, more intelligent. So the alignment of this curiosity as to how the body works and how you can mend the body, how someone mended mine or helped me to become pain-free, that then motivated me to become an osteopath. Now, the key points that I really took from studying here is I thrived in the fact that it's a very focused environment to learn. You're surrounded by other people who are trying to do the same thing. Everyone has the different assets, the different natures, the different attributes, but you can bounce off one another very, very well over the 4 or 5 year course. I'm naturally quite competitive, so it was nice to be able to compete academically against my classmates. I love the fact that the UCO encouraged debate and reasoning. So how you had to, for example, not so much now, but in your 3rd and 4th year, how you're going to have to provide your clinical reasoning, i.e. you're doing this to the patient, or you're doing this with the patient, but what is the reasoning for that? And I very much recommend that you don't just go to the reasoning, but you go to the evidence for your reasoning. What have you read? Where have you read it? What have you learned that is going to enable, or that is providing you with sufficient reason or evidence to treat a patient in that way? If you do that, it will really, really set you up for your last year when you have to do your dissertation, which is essentially research and argument as to what is the evidence for a hypothesis which you have come up with. Now, the other fantastic thing which I've touched on before is that osteopathy has equipped me with a philosophy of which evidence is in support of. So, for example, we've got a bit of a dichotomy at the moment. If you have lower back pain, and I was to go to my doctor with lower back, or let's mix up a bit. I will go to my doctor with knee pain and say I've got some edema around my knee and I can't quite weight bear on it. What's the likely outcome for my doctor? Sorry? Most likely not. So a scan would come probably later down the line.
Medication.
Sorry?
Medication.
Medication, you said?
Anti-inflammatory or pain management.
Anti-inflammatory pain management, right? So we've got a knee, and the symptoms of that knee are being treated, right? Now, what we can see with emergent evidence coming from, say, physical therapy, osteopathy, or just general health, is that what are the predispositions for knee pain? Well, we've got a reduction in strength, we've got fear-avoiding behaviours, poor diet, poor sleep, generally poor lifestyle. These are all things that can inflame our bodies. Now, you've got on one side, you've got allopathy, treating the symptoms. However, if they last for longer than 3 months and they become chronic, that pain then becomes an issue in itself. It becomes a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy that the knee is painful because the edema, and then you have edema because it's painful, for example. However, what evidence is showing us is that if we can start to coach individuals to have less fear-avoiding behaviours, if we can treat for pain relief, if we can encourage early weight bearing, if we can encourage a good diet, good sleep, and create a plan for their recovery, these are much more effective ways to enable you to take a patient from being in pain to being pain-free. And you guys are going to be graduating at quite an exciting time in the industry, because that's the way that things are going. And although the NHS is quite behind when it comes to what's happening on the front line of, say, private health, you guys are still going to be there trying to promote that push forward. And this also matches up to the tenets and tenet philosophies, or the pillars of osteopathy, how you go towards health. But like I said, the philosophy that I've gained has been very, very effective, not just for treating my patients and able to become pain-free, but also a philosophy of life. It's given me a clear path, philosophy and a framework for betterment, to better myself as a clinician, to understand the workings of the mind and the body of the patient. But like I said, it's enabled me to understand the workings of a business, the infrastructure of systems and the infrastructure of processes, i.e. how do the systems that are set up in a business govern how it's run, structure, function. Exactly the same thing that you guys are going to be learning. And there are very, very few professions which enable you to learn something and literally apply it right there, right then, for the betterment of society. There's many people will be taking degrees where it's quite a few steps removed from their vocation, you guys, for whatever you study here, and I assure you, whether you're studying neurology, embryology, ethics, all of these things are actually going to be at the front line of your mind when you're treating patients. And there's very, very few other professions that enable you to do that, or other degrees which enable you to do that. All right. Now, although you guys are studying osteopathy, one of the most important things that you can do is also critique it. Because osteopathy, like all good professions should, is evolving time and time again. If you can critique osteopathy and you can critique what you're doing, you're naturally going to create a feedback loop where you'll get better and better. Do not fall back and rely on tenets or key bits of information time and time again without critiquing how solid the evidence is supporting that. After becoming more interested in critiquing practice, can we measure what we do as osteopaths similarly to allopathic medicine? And if so, how do we critique what we do? So what I'm saying by this is that you as an osteopath, or you practicing osteopathy, is very, very different to other medical professions because it's more of a therapy than it is, say, medicine. So what I mean by that is that the therapist will guide the patient and the medical practitioner will provide an intervention to get that patient better. Very, very different things. You tend to find that the intervention-focused practitioner will have, and it's much easier to research and will have much more clear cause and effects for what they do. What we do as osteopaths is we need to rely on an accumulation of evidence to support what we're doing. So you want to make sure that you're reading around. So making sure that you're reading on what's better for a patient's inflammatory levels, their joint health, their tissue health, their mental health, sleep health, all these things. If you work in the round, then you'll be able to help a lot more patients. Now, an example of this is this diagram, which I use, I suppose, in my mind. So this is just the framework that I work with. So you've got the person in the center, and then around the outside of the person, you've got their defense mechanisms. Now in the physical realm, this will be your skin, could be the strength of your bones, strength of your muscles, etc. But what we've also found is these other things here also help to protect a patient. So the food they're eating, the strength they're eating, stress. The stress is obviously an acute response to defend that person against external stresses. However, if that goes on for a long time, then it can mean that it causes more harm than good. Pain is a defense mechanism. If that pain has been going on for longer than it should, then we class that as chronic pain. Sleep helps to reduce body inflammation, but if that person is sleep deprived, it will do the opposite, or increase inflammation. And belief systems. And these tend to be a lot of the common things that we work with. And just by gaining an understanding of that now, it will enable you to create a framework to better your patients when you do get to clinic, and also when you're observing in clinic, you'll be able to brainstorm ideas that you could then put into practice in later years. So that's been my process of becoming better as an osteopath, of taking the education I gained here and adding on to it, making sure that I'm critiquing as I go to be as effective as I can be. What I've done since being at uni, to then graduating and then opening up various shopfront locations, is I started off, so first year, and this is one thing I'd really recommend as well. In the first year I studied the sports massage qualification. Really, really good way to get my hands on patients earlier, because then once again you're reinstating that feedback loop. Not only are you just putting a bit more money in your pockets, but as well as that, you're going to be able to take what you're learning at university and you're going to be able to apply it to patients that you're seeing on a day-to-day basis. Now, it might be that you just lengthen the consultation process a little bit more, so you're starting to ask questions that you would be asking when you go into clinic, but it could be that you're diving a little bit more into their family history and you're starting to put things together. But also, your techniques, like the techniques that you use or that you're learning now, you'll be able to apply as a sports science therapist. Now, what that enabled me to do, just working from my mum's living room, but also as well as that, going from door to door, is it enabled me to build a rapport within the community that I wanted to practice in. So 2 or 3 years before I graduated, I was already sowing seeds that I'm a sports massage therapist, but I'm going to be an osteopath in 3 or 2 or 1 year's time. So you're going out into work with an existing client list. I'd highly recommend it. Those individuals who did that from my year, they tended to get busier quicker, but also their clinical skills developed a lot faster because they're not trying to muddle through the academia that they've got in their heads. And then also, as well as that, when you, I take it, no, you guys haven't observed yet in clinic, have you? Or some of the first years have?
No, we haven't.
Sorry, second years have.
Yeah.
Not yet. Oh, when did they start observing?
COVID kind of kicked it in the teeth a little bit, so
okay,
yeah, so certainly second year's not spent any time in clinic this year at all.
It's last week. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Week.
a bit early. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you'll witness the students, for lack of a better term, being grilled by the clinical tutors. And there's a good reason for this, because the clinical tutors need to make sure that the practitioners are safe. Now, when the students graduate, sometimes they can feel a bit stuck because they've got the voice of the clinical tutors in their head instilling doubt even when they graduate, which is fine because because doubt instills critique instills better practice, right? But you should be able to calmly critique yourself and critique your opinions or your clinical reasoning without necessarily showing it on the outer surface to the patient. Because if you show to the patient that you're doubting yourself and the patient doubts you, then it's most likely that their faith in you is going to reduce and the prognosis for them is going to be affected. If you've had more hands-on years leading up to that point, you'll graduate with more confidence and by default you'll be a more effective practitioner. Anyway, so that was me after 3 years. So that was me starting at Revitalize as more of a mobile business. Now, by the time I graduated in 2013, I'd gained enough clientele to justify opening up a shop from. So back then in 2013, that shop front was quite cheap. I think I was only paying about £550 a month for just a space to have one treatment room. But I'd already gained a clientele of about 250 people. So once we got in there, I started to get to work on marketing. I love marketing. The reason why I love marketing is because I love the way the human mind works. I love being able to figure it out, to be able to persuade people, put out information that educates people, to position myself as an expert within my community through marketing.
Sorry, Elliot.
Yes.
Just sorry, I didn't get. When did you open that?
Which one?
What year was? Yeah. What year was?
2013.
So you was in osteopathy. What year was you in?
I graduated 2013, and then
you graduated already.
Graduated
Okay, sorry.
2013, and I wasn't still.
I was just about to say,
studying.
I was thinking, wow.
Straight to it. Yeah.
Okay.
So graduated in July. That set up September 2nd.
Cool.
So it's quite quick.
Yeah.
I had to be quite quick. Because I had that clientele, it also it gave me leverage when talking to the landlord. Because I could say that I've got an existing business moving here. It's not fresh. It's a low risk to you. And then to get a reduction in the rate, I also gave him 10 months rent up front.
Oh wow.
So I went in there with high aspirations. However, I remember sitting there with these aspirations of starting a pain clinic, a physical fitness business side of things, and then later a mental health clinic, thinking, what have I just got myself into? Because as the costs started to accumulate, you think it's just £550 a month. When you add your insurance and your rate and all these kind of things, ended up being about £1,500 a month. So that's already, £15,000, no, £18,000 for the year that I had to make just to break even. So I got to work, like I said, with marketing. Started to utilise a few things. One, leaflet drops, social media, not necessarily door knocking, but leaflet drops, trying to build up rapport within the area. Over the course of 3 years, 3 to 3.5 years, we went from having a patient base of 250 clientele to 2,000 clientele over about 3 to 4 years. And I've taken on another sports therapist, a herbalist, and as well as that, 2 personal trainers. So we're starting to once again go into this osteopathic philosophy that you should first find health. How does someone find health? They need different specialists to make sure that they're taking care of different tenets of their health. So we were kind of burst into the scenes after about 3 to 4 years, developed a clientele of 2,000 people. And that's when I wanted to draw everything under one roof. I wanted people to be able to come to a place where they could see a psychotherapist, a psychologist, dietitian, nutritionist, osteopaths, physiotherapists, chiropractors, sports therapists, herbalists, all under one roof. And for those individuals to be talking to each other. One of the frustrations that you get a lot in the NHS is this fragmentation of different practitioners. You've got the GP, but the GP hasn't spoken to the rheumatology department yet, and they haven't spoken to the orthopedic department yet. So I wanted everything to be under one roof with these practitioners constantly talking and learning from each other. So then we found this pub, which is 1,800 square foot, so we've gone from 100 square foot to 1,800 square foot, and enabled us to build a clinic with a gym attached and multiple different consultation rooms. Went from a team of 3 individuals and 2,000 clientele and seeing about 300 appointments a month to now we've got a patient list of 8,600 people and we're seeing 800 to 1,000 appointments a month, and our team is about 18 people strong. And that's going to grow again. It's going to be about 20 in the next 4 weeks' time when we take on more practitioners. So, I just wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about my mindset when it comes to opening the clinics and what I feel really worked for me. So, first thing is a shop front develops prestige. If you can say to a patient that you're coming to a shop front location, especially if it has maybe some private parking or something like that, it shows prestige. Now there has been a history of saying, fine, a lot of osteopaths, physios, chiropractors may be working in a spare room or something like that, which is fine. But I would say that if you really want to promote the profession forward, then what you should be doing is trying, if you can, to develop prestige within the community. It's much easier to develop prestige if you've got a shop front. But obviously those are overheads that needs to be covered. The other is exposure. So we ask our clients how they hear of us, and this is quite interesting. So I was spending £500 a month here, but that shop front is about 200 metres away from that shop front, but it's not on the high street. And that created a negative return on people hearing about us and paying for us treatment by hearing about the shop front. That costs us a lot more, it's much bigger, but that has a positive return. So you see how sometimes going in a little bit smaller is safer, which is a good thing to do, but in the long run, if you can upscale and you can have more prestige, the prestige will pay for itself. Marketing wise, it was all about really learning to overcome the barriers to treatment via language and media. A lot of people don't go to osteopaths simply because they don't know what we do and they've never experienced what we do. I think about 10 to 20% of all people have been to an osteopath. Multiple reasons for that. Some areas it's very expensive, and obviously sometimes the people just don't know what we do. But the way, if we can start to market ourselves, we can start to put ourselves forward as a profession, then we can start to close those gaps in the community. The other is about learning how to put out media and language which persuades people to become interested in us, to learn more about what we do. And that's something that I just accumulated over learning from various books and things like that. But I would say the most important thing is building the team. Taking on practitioners who are willing to learn, practitioners who can put aside the egotistical tendencies. You don't want someone who feels like they can't learn anything new because they know it all already, because they'll be left behind by the industry itself, which is already fast evolving. And the last thing which I think I'm learning more how to do now is to be able to teach and guide my team in a teacher and to teach and guide them as a leader. So guiding them, providing positive solutions and focusing on the controllable rather than the uncontrollable. And most importantly, making sure that we're doing a good job and spreading the word about it. So that's I just wanted to give you guys a brief overall as to my experience with osteopathy, what it's given me, and what I'm looking to do going forward. I'm looking to franchise the clinic going forward to unite like-minded practitioners under one brand to make sure that we're doing is best for the profession, and as well as that help osteopaths through the IO amongst various other things. But yeah, I hope that was informative for you. I made sure that it was only a 25-30 minute talk just to give you guys some opportunities to ask some questions. So if you've got any questions, I'm happy to take them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, cheers.
Thank you for your lecture. It's quite very interesting, actually. I have a question. What are you gaining from this free lecture today?
Oh, I think that because I'm grateful to osteopathy. I'm grateful for the opportunity it's given me. I think osteopathy as well is not just given me a career, but I think it's made me a better person as well. So the more that I can give back to students and to give back to people who are aspiring to study osteopathy, and the more that I can guide you, the better. I think as osteopaths, we're all on one team. You know, if only 20% of people have used us, but we're shown to have effectiveness of, you know, satisfaction of like 98%, something silly like that, then it would be a real shame if we only stayed to, you know, that 10-20% of people hearing about us. If I can help you to spread the word and to grow yourselves as practitioners, and more people hear about us, then we all win.
Thank you.
He's also got me owing him a favour.
Oh yeah, that's all right.
That's true.
Yes, dude.
Yeah, thanks for that talk. It was, yeah, really inspiring. How do you recruit your osteopaths for your clinic?
So we've set up and this is something that you guys might be interested in actually. We've set up a mentorship group. So over the last, so anyone who's studying osteopathy or chiropractic or physiotherapy, if they have a sports massage qualification, then we get them into clinic to work and we mentor them as practitioners whilst they're going throughout their course to become better osteopaths during their course or physios during their course. And then we don't ever, obviously, we're never going to write into a contract something that they have to work for us, but hopefully, if they develop a clientele, they'll come work for us. The other thing that we do, and this has been quite effective actually, is we open up free clinics to the public. So we say to the public, you can come in Saturday afternoon, be treated for free, but if you don't mind, there's going to be student practitioners and also aspiring practitioners who are going to be observing. So the reason why I do that is, once again, more people that hear about osteopathy, more people that want to study osteopathy, the profession grows. The profession is actually, there's too low a supply for the demand. So especially if you go above the Midlands and up, osteopaths are ridiculously busy and they can't get practitioners in to help them to take a step back, for example. So yeah, so it's a combination of mentoring existing students, bringing awareness to prospective students, and going from there really. But it tends to be that we have to time it around graduation to make sure that we're in the forefront of people's minds when they graduate.
Just on the sports massage that Elliot talked about, we have a partnership with the London School of Sports Massage where if you have completed the first year here, you can fast track into a sports massage therapy qualification. At the moment, there's an additional cost to that. I'm happy to say this, but this is no promise. We are looking about whether we can offer that to students for free, but we're not there yet. However, that's not going to happen now. But I'll know some more on that on Christmas. So I'll give everybody, and this is not just first year, this is everybody. Obviously, you guys will be close towards qualifying in that stage. Level. I'll talk about more about the free option if it happens, but it is definitely something we're working on. It's one of my projects in my new role. Try and develop that.
That would be excellent.
But even without that, there is the fast track course that we do offer in partnership with a guy named David Dunn, who does work and is a tutor at London School of Sports Massage that offer that. So you can get that quicker and cheaper as from being a student here. Say sometime in the future, I might have something else to update on that, but I'm not promising that now. It's a very, very early project. But I mean, so you did it while you were studying here?
After the first year, it was in the summer break after
Summer
the first year.
You'll find, I mean, it is a different set of techniques. Elliot will know that more than I will. It's a different set of techniques, it's a different approach, but it actually complements osteopathy really nicely.
Big time. And I think the reason why, so when we look at, say, the past 100 to 200 years of osteopathy, right? a lot of the theory has been around it's what we do with our hands that helps patients. In reality, it's what we do between the ears that helps our patients, how we guide them forwards. Very, very little to do with our hands, although obviously our hands are effective with pain modification, right? So therefore, if there's far more going on than just what we think that we're doing with our hands, it's very, very good also to make sure that the patient leaves feeling really good at the end of the appointment. And that's one thing that I really took from the sports massage course, is that you're getting more people coming into you who just want to feel good by the end of the session. If you can get good at making sure that that patient is feeling really nice, really relaxed, like they've had a really good job after, then it's going to really complement your skills as an osteopath, rather than some people who would want to just whack, whack, click, click, deep friction, and then off you go. Yes?
When you opened your first shop, did you have a mentor or you had in a supporting group?
Not really. I just really like to read. So if I had a problem, I would read about it. I read various books on business and systems and marketing. It's quite the running a clinic is quite simple, or setting up a clinic is quite simple. Especially once you get past the legislation of it, which also is quite simple. You just need to make sure you talk to the council beforehand. But after that, it's essentially how much effort does it take to acquire a patient, taking word of mouth out of it. What's the expected income from that patient, i.e. the expected number of treatments that they need or that they have before they stop. And then if it's just you working there, then you just have to times that number by the number of new patients that you need, unless you covering your overheads. But obviously things like Excel are really good because it will just help you to chart what your expected costs are and things like that. The difficulty comes when you want to scale up. So when you want to scale up beyond yourself, then the question is, how do I take what people want from me and create a brand behind that, something which I can take a step back from? If you can do that, sorted. That's where I think knowledge of copywriting, so learning how to put across information easily in a persuasive manner, in an educative manner. Also, media, marketing, advertising. These are what I would say you really need to create not just to scale up your practice, but predictability. Because you might notice that if it's just you relying on word of mouth, your new patients might go like that. But if you've got something to put behind that, various forms of marketing, networking, whatever you like, then you'll find that they all average each other out. So you've got a far more consistent. And so that's right, because if you start taking on people and then one day they're fully booked, next day they've got nothing, they're going to become very demoralised. Thankfully, I think, yeah, every practitioner that we've taken on so far has been fully booked within about 2 weeks. So that's the power of marketing.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And sorry, and in terms of jumping from in the school clinic where you have obviously a clinic tutor to ask questions and things like that, and jump into running your own business and not having someone to discuss, do you look to someone or you do some research yourself?
No, yeah. So there's far more resources now than there were when I was at university. So things like Physio Network, Physiopedia, Better Clinician Project, these are all things that I like to use to increase my skill set. But I would say that if you can get to the point where in clinic you've got just as many answers for the questions that the clinical tutors might have, and you feel like you can actually discuss with the clinical tutors on a level, this is what my treatment plan is, this is the evidence behind it, I completely understand your perspective, but this is my justification, is that all right? When you can have a conversation like that level, you're definitely ready. And the sooner that you can get to that stage, the better. You also want to back yourself. If you feel, and if you know that you've got enough evidence, enough clinical research to justify what you're doing, and you've taken criticism or critique into account, then back yourself on it. It's far better to be confident and do something, and then also have the humility to put your hands up and say, okay, yeah, maybe that is a better idea, than to be so nervous or so self-doubtful or self-doubting that you don't even get your foot in the door. Yeah. So if you're going to do something, do it with confidence, but also have the humility to say, okay, cool, I understand. maybe that was the wrong thing to do.
Yeah.
This is,
You mentioned you've also got students. Is it students as in like already qualified, or like
no,
students?
so so our most recent recruit, Charlotte, she was studying at the ESO, and she came on board with us at the beginning of her last year as a sports massage therapist. But and that was also a really nice thing. She was very regularly in between her patients, or she'd come in early. She'd observe all of us and our patients. We've built a great rapport with them. So once you've had a little bit of a conversation, Charlotte, did you want to explain anything more? What did you do when you did that? What's your reasoning behind it? And we've got quite a diverse team, so she was able to dip into different pools of information. And I just think that I'm very grateful that I work with such great professionals who are constantly trying to push what they're doing, and she benefited from that massively. She found that when it came to do her CCAs, that she was far more confident in her knowledge base. She was able to project herself much better than, say, if she hadn't done that.
CCA is the final clinical
Oh
assessment.
yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Sorry, where is your? So have you just?
So it's Northwest Kent.
Northwest Kent.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just by Dartford.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's about 10 minutes from Dartford.
And have you just got one at the moment?
One premises, yeah.
Yeah.
And then because I opened up 2 more clinics, and one thing I found is that because I didn't have the rapport within that community,
Yeah.
and because I was trying to treat patients at the same time as grow them, they fell on their backsides. So, and it was bad because I had practitioners there, and I was trying to put money and time behind getting them busy, but it was a bit of an uphill battle. So what I really needed is someone there who was just as invested in the clinic as I was when I opened up mine.
Yeah.
So that's why we're going more towards a franchise model where I'm going to co-invest with current team members or with osteopaths that want to open up their clinics. I'll mentor them as business owners and as practitioners, and we'll work on it together.
Perfect.
This is
For us 4 years that are going to look for a job this year, do you have any tips like what we need to take care when we look for a job?
yeah. So you're 4th year now?
Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Yeah. All right. First thing I would do, if they've got an online booking system, go on their online system and look for gaps. Look for gaps over the next 3 days. If they've got gaps over the next 3 days, then it means that they're not getting patients booked in advance for you when you go there. Look at how long practitioners have been there for. If they've been there for 2, 3, 4 years, then you know it's probably going to be pretty steady. It's going to be quite a nice place to work. I'd also look for potential. So what is your potential to do more, to learn more, to become better practitioners? What we're working on at the IO at the moment is, like I said, to develop bigger clinics. Because if we develop big clinics, that's when you have the opportunity for scaling infrastructure, managerial positions, mentorship positions, but also specialist positions. So one thing that we're doing now is we've got, you could say it's under the pain clinic, but we've also got a women's health clinic, we're pelvic health clinic. We're also going to open up a stroke clinic or and a heart clinic, things like this that our pain clinicians have qualified to do, and it gives them opportunities to scale up what they're doing, to earn more, to better provide for themselves, their families, but also to make sure that they're satisfied with the work that they're doing.
And when you're looking for a new graduate osteopath to join your team, what are the stuff that you're looking for?
Like qualities. Yeah. So first of all would be how quickly they can develop rapport. So how warm they are, how not, the word came to mind is passive, but passive isn't the right word. Their ability to sit back and observe and listen is one thing. The other would be their hunger to learn, because if you've naturally got hunger to learn, you're naturally going to accept that you don't know everything, and that's where everyone should be, I think. I hope that even when I'm in my 80s and 90s, I'm still learning things, if I'm blessed enough to get to that age. The other, I would say, is confidence in their knowledge base. One thing I'm quite aware of is how many people use words which instill doubt. So in one would be, that would be like one, but maybe, like, kinda. These are all words that are instilling doubt in that person, and I just feel like it's quite reflective of how they might communicate to a patient. But when it comes to hands-on skills, I do think that that's something that you can learn. Diagnostic tests, orthopedic tests is stuff that you can learn. If I feel like someone's got the foundations, they're a good person, they're warm, they build rapport quickly, they're hungry to learn, these are good tenets for me that they're going to be a good practitioner.
Last question, sorry. Because we're trying not to get good grades, maybe pass with distinction or something.
Oh, interesting. I've never asked for someone's grade, you know.
No.
That's how they graduate. That's how they graduate and they're insured, and that's it. So because I know that I've gone through. I'm a very good different practitioner now to what was there, or even now. Very different practitioner now than what I was last year, and that's I think the way that it should be going. So, and a lot of the time, people's success is predicated by their environment. Sometimes their confidence. These are all things that can be brought up. Even people who are low confidence, you know, like we've had new graduates who are low confidence, and that's my job to make sure that I build their confidence over time. Any other questions? Yes.
I have another one.
Yeah, no, I'll take as many as you like.
Obviously, you have lots of roles. You run a business, you mentor people, you have family, and osteopath treating people as well.
Yes.
How do you keep on top of the evidence base, and how do you keep yourself updated?
Yeah, so my role is changing quite a bit. I was seeing up to about 75 patients a week, and now I'm reducing it to 15 as I'm taking these new practitioners on.
Right.
Before that, it was a bit messier. So it was obviously my priority is making sure that I get the patients treated and to make sure that the other practitioners are busy. However, now I am spending more time reading research, reading sources from, say, like I mentioned, Physiopedia or Physio Network, Better Clinicians Project, which I think are really good, asking more questions from my fellow practitioners. What I am doing at the moment is I've opened up a marketing agency with my friend, and the reason why I've done that is it will enable me to scale up the different ideas that I have. So if I want to franchise Revitalise, for example, it's much easier to do that if I've already got an engine that's going to enable me to do that. And I'm quite active in my community, so I teach Black History as well. So I've got a side project we're running at the moment to turn Black History into a comic book series. So then I'll use the marketing agency to scale that up as well. So I've got a few ideas that I really want to work on, and the only way that I can do that is if I sit back and I have engines that are going to drive that for me. So, but then everyone's life is very different. Everyone's nature is very different. I'm just doing what I can do to try and get the most out of my work life. When it comes to my family life, my wife's quite busy as well, but I understand that give it 2-3 years, things might change, so I'm preparing myself for that as well, to start to wind it in a little bit. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get ahead now. Just to,
There you go.
How are you able to build the confidence? Because, for example, after you graduate with your master's or your degree, I mean, you've probably had like a year or two experience while you're mentored with a clinical tutor. But how did you get the confidence to actually go out and open your own like clinic and work by yourself, practicing those methods that you have without that self-doubt installed in you?
I think I'm quite stoic by nature. So I remember asking myself when I was going through, because I do like reading. I don't know if you come across Stoic philosophy. I do like reading Stoic philosophy, and also I think being Christian as well. I think Stoicism comes a bit into the philosophy or theology of Christianity as well. And I just thought that the worst that's going to happen is I'm just going to still be living at my mum's house, and that's absolutely fine. I think as long as I've got enough to eat and to put a shelter over my head, that's fine. But I'm not very much. So I love doing this. I love building. I love putting an idea to work. So I thought that if I can just make sure that my basics are covered, and then I'll use that time, that money to do this, then that's good. So I wouldn't say it's confidence. It was more curiosity, and I was very, very happy with the downside. If it didn't work out, no problem. It's fine. I've already accepted that. But I'd also say, so one book which I read, which I thought was fantastic. It's called The 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem by Nathaniel Branden, and it's basically he's a psychologist, and he's talking about, or he's writing about what builds confidence. And one thing that builds confidence is doing difficult things again and again and again, and seeing them through to the end. And at the end of the day, we're only in control. We're in control of very, very few things. Every single one of these could have flopped, and that's absolutely fine. But I was only in control of the process. So focusing on the process rather than the outcome, I think also improves confidence. Same with your CCAs. My CCA, I misjudged the methods on the first CCA. So you get two CCAs still?
It's ongoing assessment now.
Ongoing
It's not
assessment,
snapshots
okay.
anymore.
So when in my last year, you had 2 CCAs, right? Where you have, I think, 3 patients who come in from the public, and you had at least 3 examiners. You take the patient into the treatment room, the examiners are there, and you're asking that patient questions. You feel the glare from those examiners. They then leave, you go out and you present to the examiners. You then come in and you have to justify obviously what you're going to do. The patient comes in, you treat them, you then go out and you once again further have almost like a debrief, I think, with the clinical tutors. Now, my first CCA, I had massively misjudged. I misjudged how much I prepared, I misjudged what they wanted to hear, and I got an E low, so I failed it. Now, I could have said, I'm a bad osteopath, I'm no good, I'm really scared about the next one. But then what I did instead is I broke down the methods and I broke down the questions and the lines of inquiries as to what the examiners were asking me. They were asking me whether I was safe, whether I was effective. So essentially then researched, I suppose, how you can construct a good well-rounded argument, how you can construct critical thought in an effective manner. Took that into the process the next time around, got an A high in the next one. And it's only because I just understood the process. So just work on the processes, and that's all you can do. You can't control the outcome.
I think that's actually a really nice message to end on, because obviously you've got first years here, they're like, wow, what have I embarked on? There's been a huge amount of information this week, and that message that, yeah, there'll be ups and there'll be downs, and sometimes you get high grades and low grades is a really good message for you guys. There's people that are going into your 4th year when probably the message is even more important to you at that stage, because you're going to be doing what Elliot's doing, you know, a year from now when you're going out into private practice. So I think that, I mean, you've clearly been successful. It's clearly been an inspiration. I'm really excited to hear about your franchise plans and everything. But it's really nice to know that, you know, you've got the same doubts, you've got the same expectations, you've got philosophies, you've got the same ups and downs as everybody else. And I think that's a really nice message for everybody to hear.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. Elliot, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
If anyone's got any more questions, then feel free to ask me after.
Thank you.
Sorry, Elliot, what was the philosophy you said that you...
Stoic.
Sorry.
It's so it's not really formalised, but you've got common individuals who practice Stoic philosophy, Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, but you'll see it in so. I don't know if you've heard of Toussaint Louverture.
No.
He's a Haitian revolutionary.
Okay.
Brilliant man. He was an avid reader of Stoic philosophy. Nelson Mandela, avid reader of Stoic philosophy. Tend to find that people who need a philosophy for very hard times find Stoic philosophy very, very effective.
I've just never heard Stoic philosophy. I'm sure when I look it up, I will know what it is.
Yeah, but you would have heard of people using stoicism, or he's stoic as like an adjective, or she's stoic as an adjective. It comes from
Okay.
that. Yeah.
Elliot, I'm going to shut you down. Is that right?
Yeah, of course. But it's also it was the foundation for CBT.
Okay.
Okay. It's instructing people that you've got organism and you've got environment, and the only thing that the organism is in control of is not the environment, but their perception of the environment. And it's the same thing with pain. Pain is a perception of the environment, of the outside environment, or the internal environment. The brain perceives that this is a threat. So you can work with your patient's perception, whether it's consciously or subconsciously, to moderate their pain. So it has crossovers into practice as well.
Absolutely. Is there any way that we can contact you as well? Obviously, over the next couple of years, because we're literally just starting. So it'd be nice to.
Are you on Instagram or?
I am, yeah.
So it's just Elliot ELLIOTT JOHN Reid.
No worries.
Sorry, you were going to say something?
No, I just had a really specific question, but first of all, thank you. It's really
Pleasure.
great. Yeah, thank you.
Elliot.
John Reid.
John Reid.
I was just wondering because I have to back on the massage course.
Yeah.
Because